Well, hi. This is Adi Sancho. Today I want to show you some cool books, and they're all in Japanese, so yeah, let's look at books. Here we go. Cool, so like I said, today I want to show some books that I have used to study Japanese. Now, reading is absolutely my best skill. Absolutely, 100%. Everything else is like reading is the thing I do, which is great when you play games because you read quite a lot. So today I wanted to show some books that I've got to study Japanese with. Of course, everyone knows if you want to study, lots of people will use manga, comics, which is a great way to learn. I've got some of those in here as well. But I wanted to show some other kinds of books that I have just because it's nice to see things that might interest you, and of course if you enjoy what you're reading, that's really great for studying and memorizing 1,000 words that you never use in daily conversation but do use when you read. So yeah, let's look at some. The first kind of book I have, they are kind of art books or behind the scenes type books about games and franchises and things like that. I have just a couple here that I have picked up along the way. The first one is actually not games at all. It has nothing to do with games. This is a Disney book. Yeah, it's a Disney book about pretty much every single Disney movie ever. All the way up to... yes, all the way up to Frozen. That took a long time. All the way up to Frozen, so 2013 and then 2014. And they give you descriptions of the movie. They'll give you just behind the scenes facts, things like that, characters and all that stuff, and it's really great. I'm a huge Disney fan. I love everything about Disney, grew up with it, so it's really nice to read about something I already know so well, only in a different language. So I definitely recommend this one. It's a really nice book. The next book, it is a kind of art book. It says here that it's more like an encyclopedia for hunters. This game is Monster Hunter, as it happens. I love Monster Hunter. It does not get nearly enough love in the West. Monster Hunter is the best hunter. It's so much fun. I love it. But it's got all kinds of stuff. It just describes different kinds of armors and weapons, different monsters that you'll encounter, sometimes I think different locations as well. So all the kinds of stuff you see in the game, it's kind of a big log of all that. And if you've ever played Monster Hunter, you would know there are a lot of things in the game. Lots of weapons, lots of kinds of armor, so many. And of course lots of monsters too. So I like reading about that kind of stuff. The next book is from one of my favorite action games. I love it so much. I did play it in English and Japanese. I know a lot of people don't like the English, but I'm okay with both. And of course that game is Bayonetta. Bayonetta. Awesome. Visuals, the costumes, the characters, the enemies, everything is just so visually appealing in this game. So of course, as soon as I played the game, I thought I have to have the art book. I have to have it. So again, there's lots of behind the scenes stuff. You get to hear lots of messages from the creators of the characters. You know, what image they had in their mind when they made a lot of this stuff. And boy, when I played this game for the first time, I really wanted to know what they were thinking because some of it was just so... just wild. I don't even know. But anyway, it's nice to read about, so I can recommend it. So the next type of book I just have one, but it's helpful. It's a game guide. A guide, and it literally tells you how to play the game, and that's perfect because you really can test your comprehension when you read these, right? The one I have, it is for Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter Cross, as they called it in Japan. I believe it's Generations. Yeah, it's Generations. And it just has, this is a preliminary one. basically it came out about a week before the game came out, so you could read it and you could kind of get a refresher before the game was released. There we go. Yeah, it's quite nice, and I really like this book in particular because it has hiragana, and so you can actually read what the words are because of the characters on top of the words. That's wonderful, because if you don't have that, reading becomes a pretty big chore. So I really, really, really like hiragana. I don't know kanji. I don't know them. Whatever. Speaking of hiragana, I have a magazine as well. I have several, actually. Magazines are super cool because they tell you about all the games that haven't come out yet, and that's cool. I like knowing things ahead of time. It's a great way to study because you're studying while also learning things a lot of the time before other people, and I like being exclusive. Anyway, so I've got two magazines that are kind of similar. You may have heard of them. They are both for Nintendo. And the first one is Nintendo Dream. Nintendo Dream. They call it Nindori in Japanese. Nintendo Dori. Anyway, so yeah, it comes out every month. It's got nice articles. It has interviews with lots of creators and artists and composers and people who are really involved in the game making process. It'll give you information about the new games coming out, who all the characters are, what the story is, what the gameplay mechanics are, all that stuff. So it's really nice to see the stuff before it comes out, I think. And this one in particular has hiragana, so you can read all the interviews and stuff and know how to read it. Again, I cannot stress enough how helpful that is for me. So I really like Nindori. And in the same vein, I have another magazine here, and that is Dengeki Nintendo. Yes. Now, Dengeki Nintendo is pretty similar to Nintendo Dream, and in fact, they look almost exactly the same. The biggest difference being this one has no hiragana, which is, which actually, I was almost going to say bummer, but actually it's kind of a good thing, because when you read the hiragana one, then you can come to this one and kind of see how it compares, and if you really want to test your skill, you can look at one of these without hiragana and see how much you can read. So really, it's not so bad, I guess. This one has articles that are very, very similar to Nintendo Dream, but they're a little bit different. They don't have as much fan artwork, I don't think, as Nintendo Dream does. So there's just a couple of minor variations, but essentially they're pretty close. So if you only want one, then it doesn't really matter, honestly. And finally, now this is a magazine that a lot of people may actually know. It's very, very famous. It's probably Japan's top video game magazine. Of course, that is Famitsu. Papa. I don't know. Yeah, Famitsu, it's super duper famous. It comes out every single week, which is why it says weekly at the top. Wow. And again, it just comes out with lots of game information, lots of announcements that come out, lots of interviews and stuff like that, and it's nice to pick up. It's got a lot of different games, though. Now, I won't lie, there's a lot of times I'll pick it up and there's nothing at all I'm interested in, but in some cases, like this one, which has Ace Attorney on the cover, and actually on the back cover. Sometimes I'm pretty interested in what it has to say, so I'll pick it up. It's really good, especially with these magazines. You're reading such real-world Japanese. Now, it's not always spoken Japanese, but I think a lot of the Japanese you'll find in it, because it's talking about games, it's not just talking like a game character or something, you can really use a lot of the language you'll find here, especially when you want to read papers and things like that, or when you're taking academic testing and stuff like that. So I think it's a really valuable tool anyway. Cool, so finally, of course, I have got my last kind of book, and as I said before, it's very, very common. Everybody uses it, and that is manga, comics. I've got lots and lots of comics. I have bought comics in English since I was maybe 10 or so, and I started buying them in Japanese when I was maybe 21. I'm totally still 21. I've got two kinds. The first one, I won't lie, I have never read it. I think, no, that's not true. I read maybe the first 10 pages or so. Anyway, there's a reason why I bought it, and maybe when you see the title, you'll see why. This is called Addison. It's me. My name is Addison. So when I saw this, I thought, wow, like, this is based on a name, and it's a foreign name, and it's my name. Yoink! And I totally bought the first 2 volumes, yeah. So anyway, I can't really vouch for the story at all, but it has my name, so why not? And lastly, I have the manga for the best series of my time. My favorite series. It's, you know, it's not. Anyway, Tenchimuyo. Tenchimuyo used to come on every single week on, Toonami on Cartoon Network. I watched it every single week. I was in love with the show. I loved every single character in it. I watched it only in English for years and years and years, and then I went to Japan, watched the series again, but in Japanese this time, which was such a cool thing, you know, when you come full circle and you could finally start watching it in the original language. And so then I found these from 1995 or something. What's it? It's like 19. It's quite old. 19. Oh boy. Ah boy. Ah no. Ah jeez. Well, anyway, the point is they're old. They're like the 90s. Whatever. Anyway, so I picked these up and I love them. I think they're super awesome. I love everything about it. It's my favorite show of all time. Ever. So if you can ever pick it up, I highly recommend it. It's just so anime, you know? I love it. It's goofy. Anyway, that is all I've got in my pile right now. I have other stuff, but I didn't want to bore you with every single... no one cares. Anyway, so if you do want to start reading and picking stuff up like that, I know Famitsu has their own website. You can visit. I know that the Nintendo magazines, they can be purchased from Amazon Japan. I won't lie. Getting them to you might be a little annoying. I know you can use... the kind of shipping companies where you have it sent to them in Japan and they in turn send it to you. That's a possibility. I do think that Amazon does international shipping as well, but it can be a little pricey, so if you're gonna buy, you'd have to buy it in bulk. Other ways to find reading stuff, I'm sure you know, but I'll mention it anyway. If you go to any Japanese festivals, or if you go, of course, to any Japanese shops, but events are usually a really good way to find stuff. You know, anime conventions, and Japan conventions, and manga conventions, and gaming conventions, and other kinds of conventions. You can go to those and pick it up. And I'm sure that there are plenty of other places to find this stuff. I won't lie to you. I will be totally honest. I'm not 100% sure where to find all this stuff when you're abroad outside of Japan. But if any of you know, that would be super awesome if you would share with us and me, because I'd like to know as much as anybody. So if you know of a place to buy some good reading material, or if you know of some good reading material you use to study, please let us know. I'd love to talk about that, because reading, again, it's my #1 skill. Well, anyway, as usual, thanks so much for sticking with me. Really appreciate it, and I hope this helped you out. Hope you have a nice day, evening, night, morning, whatever, and, yeah, game yaroze.